To be honest, I wanted to wait for a higher quality version of this trailer to come out, but it seems 343 is taking its time, so I'll have to work with what's available. Sorry for the quality in advance. But anyway, this past Saturday, a new Halo Wars cinematic trailer was released, giving us a better look at the opening and the situation the Spirit of Fire finds itself in. There are a ton of juicy details to discuss and speculate on, so let's dive in. And right off the bat, the trailer gets interesting. We see the Spirit of Fire drifting in space as it powers up, and we see a very interesting call sign on the screen here, FFG 201. That may sound familiar to some, but if you don't know, that's the call sign for the UNSC Forward Unto Dawn. So this begs the question, why in the hell is it here? I have trouble believing that it's a mere oversight, and while it could be an Easter egg, it seems kind of out of place. No, I think the appearance of this call sign is deliberate, but again, why is it here? One idea that comes to mind is that, for whatever reason, the Dawn left a comm buoy on or near the Ark during its visit in 2552. Of course, that would further bring into question why it seems to be active now, which it must be if the Spirit of Fire is picking up that call sign. As far as we know, the Spirit and the Dawn never had any sort of contact, and while both were drifting through space for a time, it seems very unlikely that the Dawn's distress signal would have reached the Spirit of Fire. Admittedly, we don't know how far apart Shield World 0459 and Requiem are, but it's likely more than 4.5 light years, the maximum distance that signal could have traveled. So why would this hypothetical buoy be active? Well, either the UNSC somehow missed it, which seems very unlikely, or it was activated by someone. Maybe by UNSC forces that came under attack and were unable to contact the UNSC at large, or perhaps by the Banished to lure in other UNSC forces. Whatever the circumstances, I would wager that this signal from the Dawn is what prompts Serena to wake the Spirit of Fire's crew. Moving forward on the same screen, we can see the ship's systems waking up the crew. It's hard to make out the numbers, but it looks like Bridge 30, Cryo 20, and then something else with a larger number like 183 or something. It's really hard to make out. After the Spirit of Fire emblem appears, we get a brief glimpse at another screen. We can make out the start of shipboard artificial intelligence, with gravity and some other system booting up. Interestingly though, the AI sync is actually going down. Could this give any credence to the theory that Serena went into some sort of hibernation to stave off rampancy? Perhaps. Speaking of Serena, the trailer continues as we hear those famous words from the end of Halo Wars.
Captain, wake up, wake up. Something has happened.
So let's pause a moment to discuss Serena. How is she still active? I presented one theory already, but I've recently had another come to mind. What if Serena created a dumb AI version of herself? A simpler copy that could do any necessary duties after the real Serena succumbed to rampancy. For those who don't know, Serena, like Cortana or Roland, is a smart AI, meaning that she was created from a human mind and is capable of independent and creative thought and action. A dumb AI is like Antidot or the Superintendent, only really capable of doing what it's been programmed to do, but without the lifespan restrictions of a smart AI. I don't know if it's really possible for Serena to have created a dumb clone, but it's an idea. If not that, perhaps she created a simple program to wake the crew in the event that something, anything, were to occur. Once again, moving forward, we get to see a nice shot of the exterior of the Spirit of Fire just before ISO Cutter meets up with Dr. Anders. Anders pulls up a hologram of the Ark, the structure the Spirit has somehow found itself over, before we cut to Red Team exploring what appears to be an abandoned UNSC base. As we cut between Red Team and Anders and ISO Cutter, Red Team is ambushed by Jerohane forces, or more specifically, Atriox. And boy is there some awesome stuff going on here. If you watch closely, you can see that Atriox's energy mace seems to pull Douglas towards it, much like Tartarus would do with the Fist of Root, before slamming him into the ground. As Jerome and Alice pull Douglas out, he calls in a Spartan casualty, which, as I'm sure you know, has sent a wave of worry through the community. Now fear not, as casualty doesn't always mean dead, so it's possible Douglas survives. The next scene is one of my favorites in the trailer, with brute warlords hitting their gravity hammers against the ground like Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings before, presumably, chasing after Red Team. It's a small moment, but I love the feeling it instills. Anyway, as Red Team brings Douglas to their Warthog, they find themselves surrounded by banished forces. In these scenes, we can see that the forces use brute shots and carbines. We also see a Sangheili commanding a ghost squad, which seems to indicate that, despite the banished being headed by a brute, the Sangheili still have some command authority. People have been asking since E3 why we see Sangheili and Jerohane working together, given how they, historically, had a pretty strained relationship. First, it's important to note that these species do not follow a groupthink, i.e. they do not all think alike. There may be a general dislike between Sangheili and Jiralhanae, but that doesn't mean that the two species couldn't work together under the right conditions, which is likely how the Banished started. The Banished also began their rebellion prior to the Great Schism, meaning that they got to avoid all the fallout of that conflict. Another common theory I've seen thrown around is the idea that some of Sesarefumi's rebellion may make up a part of the Banished. While I think it's certainly possible that some of the survivors might have joined the Banished, I wouldn't really hold my breath for any sort of direct connection. So, moving on, we have the Spirit booting up their guns, Cutter activating something, followed by the Spirit of Fire firing missiles, presumably at something on the Ark's surface. We then get a couple quick cuts showing first some Marines, then Douglas's damaged helmet, before we get a scene of Red Team driving away from the abandoned UNSC facility and being chased by ghosts. In the background, we can see what looks like a bunch of forces running down the cliff face, the missiles from the Spirit of Fire approaching the ground, and the Ark's artificial sun rising. Well, the light is coming in like a sunrise at least. The trailer then ends with ISO Cutter looking down over the Ark as we get probably our best shot of the installation yet, and as has been noted by many, it looks to be in pristine condition. Honestly, it actually looks better than it was in Halo 3. Significantly more green at least. Now I know a lot of people have been asking how is this possible given the events of Halo 3, so allow me to explain. Warning, spoilers ahead for Halo Hunters in the Dark. So after Halo 3, the UNSC actually made 2 trips back to the Ark. The first was around 2553 or 54, following a distress signal detected among the debris. The UNSC Rubicon found the damaged carapace of 343 Guilty Spark and disappeared soon after. The UNSC returned again in 2555 along with the Swords of Sanghelios after the Halo array mysteriously started a countdown to activation. After the array was deactivated once again, the UNSC set up shop on the Ark intending to study and even repair it. As you can see, those efforts definitely succeeded, and the core world we saw in Halo 3 is showing the cost of that effort. As I discussed last time, there is also a Halo ring present. I brought up the possibility that it could be in Installation 04C or Installation 03, but one possibility I forgot to mention is it being the Halo ring we see in the legendary ending for Halo 5. That doesn't necessarily negate the other 2 possibilities, but it would be an interesting tie-in if it were the one we saw in Halo 5. The last thing I want to talk about here is Douglas. I'm fairly confident that he survives his encounter with Atriox, but in doing so, he will need a new set of armor. His helmet, as we saw, was crushed, and it's very likely the rest of his suit was pretty severely damaged. I've been giving a lot of thought lately about the mysterious Red Spartan in the Halo Wars 2 menu, and I think it may be Douglas in a new set of Mjolnir armor. The set closely resembles Mark 6 with some notable differences, comparing it even to the Halo 2 Anniversary Mark 6, seeing as Blur seems to be using a number of Halo 2 Anniversary assets for Halo Wars 2, the two are clearly different models. The most notable difference is in the helmet, with the faceplate more closely resembling the Gen 2 Mark 6, and the helmet featuring Mark 4 style vents. Given that, I can't help but wonder if, following the encounter with Atriox, Douglas dons a new set of Mjolnir. But that of course questions where he got it. My own thoughts are that maybe the Spirit had another set lying around because reasons, or that it was recovered from an abandoned UNSC facility, or perhaps it was given to Douglas after the events of Halo Wars 2 when, presumably, the Spirit finally makes contact with what remains of the UNSC. And so that is it. What a hell of a breakdown, though I mean that in a good way. The trailer is very enlightening and contains a ton of juicy details to theorize about. So what did you all think? Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments and get a conversation going. Thanks for watching as always, and until next time, this has been Halo Canon. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing, and sharing it around. You are the reason I get to keep doing this, so thank you. Profusely, thank you. If you want to dive deeper into Halo's lore, head over to the Halo Archive. It's a lore-based community that welcomes everyone from experts to rookies. No matter what your working knowledge, you'll be sure to find a friend and a good time.